Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 403 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger, the main man, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing this week, my man?
I'm doing great, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. Let's dive straight into the review part of the show. I'm going to start here with this one. It went down in Germany at the Unihall Wuppertal in Nordrhein-Westfalen. Over here, on the undercard, Jack Kulkai picked up a win. He's now 33-4, a knockout win for him in round 2 against Juan Monzon, who's now 8-5 with 3 draws. But the main event, Vincenzo Gualtieri, I'm going to hold my hands up and say I didn't know too much about the guy at all. I thought he's going to, box Esquiva Falcao, a guy that I do know really well, 30-0. Falcao, I think, was a Olympian in the past from South America. I can't remember if it's Colombia or Venezuela. I think Venezuela, but anyway. Whatever. I thought Falcao's going to go out there, fight here for the vacant IBF World Middleweight title, probably win on points. But no, Gualtieri started the fight well, had Falcao down in round 2, and built off of that, really. When I say built off of that, I mean started dominating, not that he dropped him again for a while, but he did have him down in round 10. And yeah, it was a decisive and clear wide points win there for Gualtieri over 12 rounds. He's a new IBF middleweight champion of the world. He upsets the odds, and it wasn't like there was fishy scorecards or anything. He certainly deserved the win. Now 21-0 with 1 draw. Esquiva Falcao loses his O. He's now 30-1. Maybe Gualtieri's just a much better fighter than I first thought he would be, and again, I hadn't heard of him. Falcao, I had heard of, and I thought, was a good fighter, but yeah, I don't know what's gone on there. Moving now to the Manchester Arena over here in the UK. Let's start with the undercard. April Hunter was able to avenge her sole career defeat. She lost, obviously, her O to Kirsty Bavington. They had the rematch here. This time, April Hunter managed to get the points win. She's now 7-1. Kirsty Bavington now 7-5 with 2 draws. Bavington down in the 7th round. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the fact that she was down in that 7th round, obviously, April Hunter won the round 10-8, and I believe that was pretty much the deciding factor of April Hunter winning the fight. Ben Whittaker with another win. He's now 4-0, a TKO for him in the 8th and final round against Vladimir Beluski, who's now 13-7 with a draw. Beluski down in round 3. Typical Ben Whittaker performance, really. Lots and lots of showboating. Not everyone really likes to see that. It was just a mismatch, really. I don't even want to spend too long talking about it. Natasha Jonas, oh boy, I'm really happy for her. She's the new IBF welterweight champion of the world. She won the vacant title here with a TKO in round 8 against Candy Wyatt, who's now 11-5. Natasha Jonas, now 2-weight world champion, 14-2 with a draw, her record. Natasha Jonas hurt Wyatt in the opening round, tried to put the foot on the gas, and it was one of those situations where you kind of wonder, if the 2-minute rounds were actually 3-minute rounds, would we see more KOs? I think we certainly would have seen an earlier KO here for Jonas. It was pretty one-sided. She put a beating on Candy Wyatt. Candy Wyatt is obviously a tough girl. There's no getting away from that. And she took a real hiding, and I was happy in the end that she was stopped. I didn't want to see her, just get bashed up the whole night. But yeah, she did go 8 rounds. I think they could have probably stopped it a little bit earlier than that. But credit to Jonas, who, like I say, seems to have found, the best part of her career in recent times, and she is 39 years of age. Moving up the card once again, Callum Simpson. He's now 12-0, a unanimous decision over 10 rounds there against Boris Crichton. Boris Crichton now 11-4. He's so tough, Crichton. Like I say, Simpson 12-0, but Crichton, so hard to hit clean, such a spoiler as well. Like, it's so hard to hit him clean. Obviously, Callum Simpson, many people thought he would go in there and just knock Crichton out. Crichton, we saw him kind of survive against Lyndon Arthur. He's a really fit guy, and again, he doesn't really seem to turn his shots over too great himself, like, I don't think he's a big puncher. I think he needs to work on turning those shots over, but what he is really good at is surviving and riding shots and tying you up and all the rest of it. He seems like a real frustrating style, especially for a really aggressive fighter like Simpson. And yeah, Simpson banks 10 rounds there, and that's good to kind of get in your locker, but wasn't a really excellent performance like many people expected to see. Moving up the card once again, Zach Gilley with a really disappointing performance. He's now 13-2 with a draw. He lost unanimously over 10 rounds to Mark Jeffers, who only had about a week to 2 weeks notice for the fight. He's now 16-0. Really impressed actually with Mark Jeffers. Zach Gilley was just so disappointing. I mean, he started really slow. His jab would fall short. His jab was extremely slow, And Mark Jeffers, just honestly, I'd never seen him fight before, and I thought he's going to go in there and probably end up getting banged out, because I think Gilley's a lot bigger of a puncher than his record would suggest. But yeah, Mark Jeffers, man, so much credit has to go to him. He absolutely boxed Gilley's head off. And Gilley did have a little bit of success really late on. Gilley sometimes likes to get into a bit of a war, and he usually comes off best. But even when he did get into a bit of a war with Jeffers, Jeffers would just stand there, hold his feet, and get the better of him every single time. Jeffers honestly showed me quite a lot in that fight, and I actually can't wait to see him fight again. As for Zach Gilley, I was so disappointed actually. Like, really disappointed. I thought it would be an easy win for him. And he looked terrible. He absolutely looked terrible. And I can't even defend him. I really like Zach Gilley. But yeah, it's a hard performance to defend because it was that poor. He lost in every aspect, every area. And it was just so surprising because I thought he was a lot better than that. And yeah, the main event, Franchon Crews-Dezurn, friend of the show, she was dethroned of her undisputed super middleweight world title status. She's now 8-2, a majority decision over 10 2-minute rounds against Savannah Marshall. She is now 13-1. She has taken all 4 of the main titles there at super middleweight. She's now undisputed. Happy for her. Happy for Peter Fury in the corner as well. Our very first ever guest on this podcast, actually, back in 2015. Yeah, I thought Savannah Marshall was quite good, actually. I don't think it should have been a majority. I think probably Dezurn won maybe 2 rounds at best, maybe 3 at the very best. Clarissa Shields at ringside, making everyone hear her voice, screaming for the entirety of the fight, calling out lots and lots of different things for Dezurn to try and do. But yeah, Dezurn, I think Marshall picked up on it in the build-up. She said, "You're not Clarissa." And yeah, that was true. She's not Clarissa. Clarissa is a very, very good, talented fighter. And yeah, Franchon is a little bit, I don't want to be too harsh, she's a friend of the show. I like her a lot, but quite one-dimensional, and I didn't think she would really have a chance against Marshall. Like I say, I thought it was very wide for Marshall in the end, actually. And yeah, Marshall has kind of surprised me in her last 2 fights, which are the 2 fights here that she's had against these American ladies, Franchon Crews-Dezurn and also Clarissa Shields, where she seems to kind of give away that height advantage she has. She likes to crouch down and flick out the jab, and the jab kind of comes from the hips almost. And I'm not entirely sure that works for her. We saw we saw it completely ineffective against Clarissa Shields, but here she was doing the same thing with Franchon Cruz, and sometimes it wasn't working, but then, like I said, I don't think Franchon is as good as Clarissa. I don't think Franchon's as good as Marshall, and not as fit as Marshall as well. So as the fight went on, DAZN couldn't really do much, and especially the late rounds, Savannah was really starting to, to pull away with the scorecards for sure, in my opinion anyway. So yeah, Savannah Marshall, clear victory, dominated a undisputed champion there. I don't know if it sets up a rematch with Clarissa or what, but yeah, happy for Savannah, because I did think DAZN was extremely confident, and Savannah obviously had to bounce back after losing in a demoralizing defeat to Clarissa. So it was quite important to me to see how she bounced back, and I think she bounced back quite well considering. So yeah, like I say, happy for her, dominated an undisputed champion and takes all the belts, and straight away in her very next fight after losing to Clarissa, she is an undisputed world champion. I mean, you can't ask for more than that. So extremely happy for her, and yeah, commiserations for DAZN. Credit to her for coming here to the UK. I haven't heard anything about a rematch clause in the contract, but if DAZN actually fought Savannah Marshall without making her sign a rematch clause, then I'll be really surprised. But I've not heard anything about a rematch. I don't think there should be one, but from a business point of view, surely she would have put a rematch clause in that contract, you'd have thought, especially because she claims that she came to the UK as an amateur and lost a very controversial points decision to Savannah. So she has had prior experience boxing Savannah in the UK, and boxing Savannah in the UK getting robbed by judges, in her opinion. So she should have had a rematch clause, but I haven't heard it mentioned at all anywhere. Yeah, that's it for that one. Moving now to the York Hall in Bethnal Green. One fight to mention over here, friend of the show, Casey Kadami, now 9-1 with 2 draws, a win here. He was able to TKO in just 3 rounds Ben Norman, who's now 7-3. Norman down twice in the fight. It was for the vacant IBO Continental Super Flyweight title. All the best there to Casey Kadami. Moving now to the Sheffield Arena, Sheffield, Yorkshire, United Kingdom. This one was live on DAZN. Let's start with the undercard. The Brazilian female Beatriz Ferreira, now 3-0, a points win for her over 8 2-minute rounds against Carla Zamora. A lot of people felt that the Brazilian girl was going to bang Zamora out of there, because the Brazilian girl, I keep saying Brazilian girl, Beatrice, she actually would stop quite a few girls in the amateurs, and obviously she turned pro. I think she was 2-0 with 1 KO, but yeah, she got in with Zamora, who's been round the block really in terms of being a pro. So yeah, if you stop people in the amateurs, it's a good look, because it's very rare actually for a female to be a big puncher in the amateurs. But like we say again and again, the amateur game's completely different to the professional game, and yeah, Zamora was able to actually go the full distance there, 8-2s, and yeah, Ferreira was unable to get her out of there. Moving to the other fight on the card, I should mention here, Louis Sylvester, now 12-0, a points win unanimously over 10 for the vacant English lightweight title against Adam Cope, who's now 7-1. Good win there for Louis Sylvester. Hopey Price, I tell you what, I thought he'd stop James Beats Jr. I thought he was just going to be able to do it. Obviously, I think he'd moved up in weight as well for the fight, if I'm not mistaken. Hopey Price, a 7th round retirement win, so James Beats Jr. didn't come out for round 8. Beach was cut in round 6 and cut in round 7, I think, as well, on both eyes. So yeah, good step up, good win there for Hopey Price. He's now 11-0. Pat McCormack with a really impressive win as well. He is currently 5-0. His opponent also retired on his stall. Tony Dixon didn't come out for round 5. He's now 14-5. McCormack, like I say, 5-0. Dixon down late in round 4. McCormack looked really good, just showed a little glimpse of what he can do. Obviously, it's against I was going to say not a world beater, Tony Dixon, but having said that, it's only Pat's 5th fight, so yeah, really impressive performance from him. And yeah, the main event, Dalton Smith, oh boy, a TKO win in round 7. He's now 15-0. He was able to TKO Sammy Maxwell, now 17-2. It was for the British and Commonwealth super lightweight titles. Great performance from Dalton Smith, and I really mean that. He was cut over both eyes from head clashes during the fight, but he was punch perfect, honestly. I don't think he lost a round. You know, we've said it time and time again, Dalton Smith is such a talent, and we've said it, you know, so many times. Probably the best prospect in British boxing right now. Seems to just have it all, really. I love the way they've moved him. You know, he's now, like I say, British champion, got the Commonwealth as well. But yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, he might have even won the British outright, or it's definitely not his first offence anyway. But I tell you what, the guy is just unbelievable, you know, and I cannot wait to see him stepped up. I think there's some great fights actually that can be made for him at welterweight if he did decide to move up. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing him in with someone like Conor Benn. Wouldn't mind seeing him in with someone like Michael McKinson. At 140, though, I think there's not too much there for him domestically off the top of my head. But yeah, I just think the guy's got such a bright future. Obviously, his dad in the corner with him. It's a father-son relationship that does work. And he just went through the gears, really. I mean, he really beat Maxwell up. And Maxwell, I think, was bruised up within just one round. And yeah, like I say, the stoppage in the end, a brilliant shot, and it put him out, man. It put Maxwell out. Wasn't asleep, but was absolutely flatlined. You know, they had to get the oxygen in. They had to bring the stool to him. It was a brutal KO. And yeah, I just think Dalton Smith is such a good fighter, man. And yeah, like I say, he was coming off a bit of a not so great performance last time out. He didn't look great last time out, but I think he's the type of guy you throw him in with you know, stiffer competition and you'll see more from him. I think he sometimes is a bit like that. Sometimes when you expect him to just walk over someone, he doesn't really perform to his best, but then when you throw him in like here in against Sammy Maxwell, who can punch as well, you know, Sammy Maxwell probably on paper the best fighter he would have been in with yet as a pro, and you see the best of Dalton Smith. I thought he didn't put a foot wrong. He was unbelievable. And yeah, moving out now to the final card to mention, it went down at the Huntington Center in Toledo, Ohio. Over here, it was live on ESPN in the States and Sky Sports in the UK. Going to start with the undercard. Just one fighter I do want to mention, actually, one to watch for the future. Abdullah Mason, now 9-0, I think, with 8 KOs. A second round TKO against Alex de Oliveira, now 20-5. I think Abdullah Mason is going places. Jahi Tucker, that's a guy who maybe isn't going places. He was an undefeated prospect. He was 10-0, he's now 10-1. He lost a majority decision over 8 to Nicholas Flaz, who's now 10-3. Who's now 11-2. Flaz as well, I thought it was worth a little punt on him, actually. I ended up not going for it, but Flaz was a big underdog with the bookies, and Flaz had actually upset the odds a couple of times in recent performances, so yeah, I thought it was worth a little punt, but I didn't get on it. Moving up the card again, it was a fun fight really while it lasted. Arslanbek Makhmudov, now 17-0 with 16 KOs, a TKO for him in round 2 against another massive puncher, Rafael Agpegiori. Agpegiori was 15-0 with 14 of them by KO. He's now 15-1, knocked out in the second. He was down in the first, twice in the first. It was for the NABF heavyweight title. And yeah, down once in round 2, like I say, and TKO'd. Makhmudov, just honestly, sometimes watching him is just, I mean, always watching him actually is like blinking, you'll miss it. Came out like a wrecking ball. You could instantly tell that he was trying to get the job done quick. He does sometimes leave himself open as well, but I don't think he really cares. I don't think he doubts in his own chin. And yeah, just came out. You could see he was trying to get the stoppage done in about 5 seconds of the first round. Like, he was just throwing haymaker after haymaker, and he just didn't let Agpegiori, you know, settle at all. He was out there meeting him in the center of the ring, backing him up, you know, wasn't giving him any space. when he was kind of pushing Akpegiori back, he was almost getting a little bit dirty. You know, he seemed like he was desperate to knock him out quick. It was almost as if he put his house on the fact he's going to knock him out in 1 or 2 rounds. So yeah, it was clear to see that the fight wasn't going to go long at all, and someone was going to get knocked out. And yeah, Makhmudov got the knockout nice and early there. Again, I still completely believe that he lost to Carlos Takam, and Takam quite badly exposed him. And if you can take him a few rounds, then I think you've got a massive chance regardless of your boxing ability. But taking him a few rounds is the hard task, and no one really seems to be able to do that at the moment. So it makes for good viewing, but he of course doesn't have a loss, even though I think he should have one, and for that reason he's obviously ranked super highly with all the governing bodies. And then yeah, the main event, Jared Big Baby Anderson, now 15-0, the first time he's gone the distance. He was 14-0 with 14 KOs. He's now, like I say, 15-0. A 10-round unanimous decision over Charles Martin, who's now 29-4 with a draw. Both guys friends of the show. Martin down in round 3. It was for the WBC USA heavyweight title and the WBO international heavyweight title. Charles Martin actually came in decent shape. I noticed that he's lost about 10 pounds since his last fight, so that tells me that he hasn't just been sitting on a sofa somewhere and smoking weird substances. It shows me that he's obviously been training. And yeah, came to the ring, looked quite confident in his ring walk. Jared obviously came to the ring as well. I think they had a rapper rapping him into the ring. Got in the ring again, looked quite confident. But I was wondering, is the pressure going to get to him? You know, we're gonna really see here what he's all about. Obviously, got him with a former world champion. Whatever you want to say about that, you can say. But he did achieve a world title. And yeah, just the fact that it was obviously back in Toledo, Ohio, where Jared Big Baby Anderson's from. And that pressure, you know, the whole crowd's there to see you win. I think he brought his dog along for the fight week as well, which that's like his best friend or whatever. He was there. I think the dog was kind of, I'm not entirely sure, was behaving himself during the fight. I think he could see his owner was having a fight, so he was kind of unsettled, and that probably, you know, was something that Jared picked up on in the corner of his eye. So it's not really clear cut, you know, it's difficult. You see a family member or a pet in this instance, you know, bothered or you know, nervous or whatever, unsettled in the corner of your eye can certainly put you off of your game. I'm not entirely sure if that did happen, but I'm just saying, you know, back in Toledo with his pet present who's kicking off at ringside. And obviously there was that little clip that circled with him and his new trainer, Roy Jones Jr., who wasn't in the corner with him, by the way. And he was saying the pressure, and he started crying in that little clip that we saw. And I just thought, wow, like, is there really that much pressure on Jared Anderson? Really? You know, and it kind of, I don't know, like he's talking about he wants to retire at 27 years of age. I think he's like 23 now, so he's got 4 years to go if that's to be the case. But yeah, I just thought, really? Is he really under that much pressure? What's it going to be like when he's walking out potentially at somewhere like Wembley Stadium in front of 80,000 people when he gets in with someone like a Joshua or someone like a Tyson Fury? God knows, you know, God knows. Like, that's when you really feel the pressure. So, I don't know, just a little bit of a chink in his armour there. I just thought to myself, maybe he doesn't really deal with pressure very good, because it wasn't really a great look to see, you know, a big tough heavyweight knocking everyone out, crying in an interview. Not that I'm obviously, you know, kicking him while he's down or anything like that. Not that I'm making fun out of that at all. I completely understand, but I don't think it's a great look when you're a heavyweight boxer, unfortunately. So if it were me, if I were him, I'd be saying, yeah, maybe don't air that clip. But obviously, you know, they aired it. They showed it, I think, again on fight night before he walked out. So I don't know. I don't know if it was maybe partly staged. I've got no idea. I'm just saying it's an angle. But yeah, really, really disappointing performance from Jared Anderson. I was actually quite shocked, to be honest with you. Yeah. You know, no one expected that we'd even see the second half of the fight, and no one, of course, expected to see Jared Anderson eat so many power shots from Charles Martin. I mean, Yeah, he was quite worried, I think, at times about the straight left hand of Martin. Martin was just letting go of that straight left hand and, straight down the pipe. That's obviously his backhand as well, being a southpaw. And it was landing again and again and again. And at times, Anderson did not want to get too close. He was throwing shots from out of range. He wasn't really wanting to commit to throwing a power shot himself due to the risk of being caught. I think Charles Martin was timing him a lot, with counters and stuff, and I was like, wow, Charles Martin still has something for sure. And I didn't think he did, actually, the way he got deleted by old man Ortiz. But certainly, like I say, he seemed like he was on his game. But I still didn't think it'd be enough to trouble Anderson in the ways that he troubled him. At times as well, Charles Martin looked really slow. Jared Big Baby Anderson was unable to capitalize on moments like that. And I feel like he, to some degree, kind of exposed himself. But I will say, what a chin from Charles Martin. I was wondering maybe if the power of Jared has been overhyped or something, but I just, all in all, was really, really confused, and I thought it was quite a bad look for Jared Anderson. Obviously, you look back at the measuring stick, you see that Ortiz got him out in 6, Joshua got him out in 2 rounds 7 whole years ago, and Anderson goes the distance and gets rocked a number of times in the fight, including the horrible time he got rocked. In the last 5 seconds of the fight, he was in lots and lots of trouble there. Walked into a massive shot. Would have been interesting to see if there was 30 seconds left, but yeah, there wasn't. So I'm not going to go down that path. So I'm not entirely sure what to make of it. This is a guy that they were saying is the next American heavyweight world champion. Some people would have said he's number 1. Some people would have put him above Deontay Wilder. I've been seeing things like that online. I wonder if those people still hold him in such high regard after this performance here. He did win the fight, but not in the fashion we expected him to win it in. Eddie, I know you probably saw bits of it. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I definitely saw pieces. And as far as the pressure and things like that, I heard about the interview and all of that. There's a great deal of pressure. But if you're not able to handle it at that level, then it's just too bad. You know what I mean? You're not going to go very far because there's going to be more pressure as he ascends. So as far as the fight and his performance, I mean, this, certain guys, you know what I mean? Especially, I think, Charles Martin was a late replacement too, which, and then sometimes
I didn't mention that, but you're 100% right. Yeah, that's another bad thing.
Yeah, and it's a tough thing when you get a late replacement who's actually a guy that is not an easy guy to fight. You know what I mean? We don't give, Charles Martin enough credit because of, the things that happened, like him getting stopped by Ortiz, even though when you think about it, he was actually doing really well, kept hurting Ortiz. And the fight before the end came for him, which it was like a crazy turnaround. And as far as Anthony Joshua, he just, at that point, at that level, Anthony Joshua was just at a different level, you know what I mean, than he was. And even though, he had a belt, he wasn't quite what Anthony Joshua was. And obviously Anthony Joshua is now being super elite and one of the elites, but he's even starting to take, drop down a few steps. But, and then to expect Jared Anderson to get in there because he's been knocking everyone out, because there's a lot of hype behind him. He's done really well with different guys in camps and different stuff like that. And you're hearing all of these things and people in the know is talking about how great of a guy, how great of a fighter he's going to be before he's even anointed, he's anointed that even before he actually gets there. And I think that's where he's coming from when he's saying the pressure. Well, it's your own doing. You're just putting that pressure on you. You've been doing so well, so now you have to just continue. You know what I mean? You got to put forth, the effort and keep that work going. And trust me, I understand where he's coming from because there was a point when I was young, and it was just so much on a young guy. I remember I turned pro at 18, and people talk about, you got to do this, you got to do that. I remember I had my whole family. We didn't have anything, so I had my whole family on my back and looking at me for, hey, what's the next step type thing. So, it was rough, and I do understand that, but you have to be prepared to take that on your back and do it with a smile. You know what I mean? And it's to show, and I know you were saying, Joe, to show that kind of emotion is commendable, but it's also worrisome for some of the supporters. You know what I mean? Unless, like you said, it was staged, it's still a little bit, you know what I mean? Is he going to be okay as he goes further up? Is the light shining too bright for him at certain times? Like, what are we going to do with this guy when he actually is like staring down in the other corner at like a Tyson Fury, like you said, or Joshua or Wilder or any of these guys, and he's got to be prepared to die. You know what I mean? Because some of these guys will come out there and they'll try to kill you. So yeah, it's rough, and I think at times in the fight, like you said, in different parts that I've seen, you can see where that pressure and those expectations can possibly get to him. You know what I mean? So unfortunately for him, he got through the fight. You know what I mean? He didn't perform as most of us would have expected, but he got through it. He got through it. Sometimes you got to win the ugly ones or the tough ones. As long as you get a win, you can move on to the next and look good the next time out. So fortunately for him, he has the opportunity to now go back to the drawing board and work on some things and improve before his next one, which is almost sure to be tougher than this one he just had.
Well, there we have it. That brings the review part to a close. The final thing for me to do in this part is to welcome this week's special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the reigning English Super-Welterweight champion. It is, of course, Mr. Sam Gilley. Sam, welcome back on the show, my man.
Thanks for having me back, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, my friend. Always good when speaking with you, Sam. So we last spoke back in December of last year. It's been a little while. In that time, obviously, you've boxed just the once. Firstly, what's been the reason for that? For that time out the ring.
Well, I was meant to fight in February, but my best friend lives in Australia, and so he was meant to be getting married December coming, but unfortunately the bride's dad had cancer and he wasn't going to make December. They had to get married in February, and so I had to fly out I was one of the groomsmen. I flew out for the wedding. It was in January. I flew out for the wedding, and so I was out there for 2 weeks. And unfortunately, the dad passed away a couple of days after the wedding. But so lucky they got it done when they did. So I had to go out there for the wedding, and then it was just there was just no opportunities popping up after that. Just nothing come up. I mean, and I ended up having to have a 6-rounder, but because there was just nothing on the table really. But I was lucky to get a 6-rounder and just at least tick over and stay busy. And, well, busy enough.
Yeah, that fight that you did have, let's talk about it. Almost 3 weeks ago now, you boxed at York Hall on that Clark whack undercard. You boxed Ellis Corrie. Yep. I placed a nice little bet for you to win on points in the sixth and final round. Just as I was starting to count my winnings, you managed to land that left hook to the body. I think there was about 14 seconds left on the clock. The sound Ellis Corrie made can only be described as a squeal. Talk me through the fight and obviously the noise you made him make whilst he was rolling around the canvas.
Well, it was just it was a good performance really. I was happy. I mean, he didn't touch me. He barely touched me. So the defence is improving a lot from the Drew Brown fight. That's something we've been working on so much since then. I didn't really get touched against Sean Williamson. Didn't get touched this time, so it's working. Ellis Corrie was a good, solid opponent. I didn't want the journeyman. That was one thing I was adamant on. I did not want to fight a journeyman. I wanted someone live in front of me. So yeah, I mean, he was like the reigning Northern Area champion or something. So yeah, good to get through. It was like the best of both worlds because I got the 6 rounds out and I still got the stoppage as well. So I managed to show some things we've been working on, and obviously left hooks to the body is my favourite shot. So it was nice to finish the show like that. But I mean, when it landed, he just lifted his elbow at the right minute. So it just literally at the last second, he just popped his elbow up and it snuck underneath. But it's one of my hardest shots that I can throw, and he definitely took the full force of it. Bless him.
Yeah, it was a fantastic shot. I remember speaking on the podcast after your fight and saying that once again I felt like this win is another win in the career of Sam Gilley that further solidifies the fact that you're above this kind of level. But 154 is a funny one because I feel like even the domestic scene has levels to it at 154 because the amount of fighters we do have. Obviously, after the fight, you were asked if I think actually your trainer Rod Julian was asked, what he thought, and he said he feels like you're the best in the country. You're ready for anyone right now. You'll have to forgive me here because I know that the interviewer threw one name out that you kind of brushed off. I've forgotten who it was, but
Egbeniki.
Who was it? Oh, Egbeniki. Okay, yeah. So you're not interested in that one, you say, Sam. So who does interest you?
So. At the minute, I've got one focus only, the Commonwealth title. I've been made mandatory for that. So Louis Greene is the champion. So obviously, it's not nothing against Louis, but it's just that's who I'm focusing on because he's got the belt that I'm mandatory for. So that's what I want, and that's who we'll be fighting next unless he vacates.
Okay, fabulous. And also, I should mention as well, after the fight, again, you were asked if that was the best shot you've landed. You said you land it every week in the gym. Do you still feel like that?
Yeah, mate. I mean, listen, like, ask the lads in the gym, they'll tell you. I don't even say anything else.
Okay. And after the fight as well, judging by your Instagram, looked like you jetted off to the Dominican. It looked real fun, Sam.
Oh, mate, honestly, it was an absolute blinder. It was it was an absolute perfect holiday. We just chilled out, ate loads of food, spent some time together, went and done like the dirt buggies and all that through the rainforest. Yeah, it was unbelievable. What a fantastic place.
Yeah, excellent, man. And knowing what I know about your trainer, Rod, I'm guessing he'd have been dying for you to get back so you could get straight back in the gym. How many days you been back in the gym, Sam?
Yeah, but I've been back 3 days now. 3 days this week. But yeah, Rod had a meeting with Sky today about the next moves. So yeah, that was really positive, and we're looking forward to the Commonwealth title.
Excellent. Yeah, you say. So what's your hunch with that? Obviously, you want to go for the Commonwealth. You say that Louis Greene's the man behind the strap. Do you think? I mean, from the whispers that you do know about, does it look like that's something we're going to probably see, or does it look like he's maybe closer to wanting to vacate?
I don't know. Only Louis Greene can answer that. I mean, I'd hope he'd take the fight. I mean, it'd be on a big platform. Do you know what I mean? He's knocked out three out of his last three. So his last 3 wins, he's not small out. So he's on a good run of form. So hopefully he takes the fight, mate. I see that he was made mandatory for the his last defence of his Commonwealth was like an eliminator for the British. I see that on the circular. So unless I'm mistaken, I think he's mandatory for the British. So if Kelly vacates, it'd be nice to get him for both.
Oh, that'd be a touch, yeah. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want to say, obviously, his last 3 wins, good win there over Dean Sutherland as well. That sounds like it's your next move. Any idea at all? I know it's very early, Sam, but any idea at all what kind of month that would maybe land in?
Well, hopefully September. Hopefully September, but we know what boxing's like. I was told I'd fight in April, and I ended up fighting 3 weeks ago. So it's things happen, things change, shows change. So especially now with a big TV company, it's like there's so many more aspects to it, like rather than the small shows where there's not really a lot that can change the show other than pull-outs and stuff like that. But, there's so many more factors to think about with the TV lot.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, just finally, we've kind of flown through all the questions really that I had for you, Sam. I wanted to say Spence versus Crawford, only about 3 weeks away now. I think we've probably spoke about this before, to be honest, but I wanted to get your latest take because a lot of people seem to be flip-flapping back and forth. Who wins and how?
All right, I'm going. So my missus has booked Vegas for later this month. So yeah, we're going. So I've got to say Crawford.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I looked on his box rate the other day. I didn't realise how many knockouts the geezer's got.
He's 100% KO at welterweight.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And I mean, what he done to what's his name? The one that beat Kelly. Avanesian. What he done to that, mate, that was scary. And yeah, I just think he's unbelievable. So I've got to go with Crawford.
Yeah, no, I've been firmly with Crawford as well, ever since the whispers of this fight. And yeah, like you say, he's been, he's 100% with his KOs since moving to 147. He really is a fabulous fighter. I cannot wait for it.
That's an absolute joke. When you think about the fighters at 147, and he come up from fighting, he boxed Ricky Burns at one point, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he's come up through the weight, and now he's sparking people up at 147 every single time he gets in the ring. That's mad.
That's what I mean. He actually didn't knock out Ricky Burns, and you think that was almost 10 years ago. Madness. And that was down at lightweight. He's unreal. But anyways, moving on. I just wanted to, obviously, that's amazing you're going out there. That is just unbelievable. I'd love to switch positions with you. But just before we wrap things up, if you've got any closing words to the listeners, Sam, I know that I always like to kind of let you finish off with a little message before we let you go. If you want to wrap it up with a little message, my man, take it away.
Just thanks everyone for the support along the way. We've got a big year coming up, so stay tuned and you will be entertained.
Yeah, no, you absolutely will be. Listen, Sam, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, mate. Congrats once again on that brilliant win. Enjoy out there in the States. I'm sure you will, and we'll speak again soon.
Top man. Cheers, mate. Thanks for speaking to me.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. We're going to start here with this one. Just one piece of news to mention. It's that we're going to see the rematch between Gilley Zhang and Joe Joyce. It goes down on September 23rd at the OVO Arena, Wembley. So, that one, like I say, goes down 23rd of September. I'm not entirely sure that they've announced a undercard just yet. So, should be a decent one. It's going to be interesting to see how that fight unfolds. But, of course, we'll talk more in depth about it when it's closer. That's it for the news. Moving on now to the preview part of the show. We're going to start here with this one. It goes down later tonight at the Auditorium in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, USA. Over here, Christopher Lovejoy. It's just a mad fight. Christopher Lovejoy, 20 and 1 with a draw. Last time out, got a draw against a guy who was 4-8. He gets in with a guy called Marcelo Leandro da Silva, who's 22-5, 17 KOs. All 5 times that he has lost, he's been knocked out. He hasn't boxed in over 6 years, and that was a first round knockout loss he suffered back in 2017 to Jean-Pierre Augustin. So I don't know what to make of that, but it's another circus fight for Christopher Lovejoy. Moving out now to this one. It goes down on Friday at the Cintermex in Monterrey, Mexico. It's going to be live on DAZN. It's headlined by young Diego Pacheco, 18-0 with 15 KOs. He gets in with Manuel Gallegos, who is 19-1 with a draw. Gallegos not stopped in his sole defeat, which was back in October of 2020 to Osiel Santoyo. Majority draw last time out against the undefeated 13-0 Richard Van Sicklen. He does hold a win over Kevin Newman, who I met a few months ago in the UK, training now under Roy Jones Jr. Nice guy, Kevin Newman, actually. Instantly click with him. To think he beat Kevin Newman, that would tell me he's quite a decent fighter, though I haven't seen anything of him. But he's a Mexican, he's going to be tough. He's only 26 years of age, 6'3" at super middleweight, so he's a big boy, as is Diego Pacheco, who I think is about 6'4". So, I don't think it's going to be a bad fight. Obviously, you'd have to side with Pacheco, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a few rounds here. One fight as well on the undercard that I do want to just give an honourable mention. Jonathan Rodriguez, 24-2, gets in with Israel Gonzalez, who these days holds a record of 28-5 with a draw. I remember him boxing Cal Yafai back in the day. But yeah, the reason I think it's going to be interesting is because Israel Gonzalez last time out, even though he lost on points to Jesse Bam Rodriguez, and he pushed him quite close. Bam Rodriguez didn't look so good in that fight, and he blamed it on the fact he'd been incredibly active all year. And, I think he'd had 3 or 4 fights in one calendar year. So, we gave him the benefit of the doubt there. But, if you don't want to give him the benefit of the doubt, then maybe Israel Gonzalez is a little bit better than we thought. Like I say, I remember him losing to Cao Yafai. I've seen him get stopped by Jerwin Ancajas as well. They've both these guys have lost to Jerwin Ancajas. But anyway, I think he put in a good performance, a performance that I would say has kind of made me want to put a small little stake on him to actually upset the odds here. He's a slight underdog. Moving out to Metepec, Mexico over here. This one is on the Saturday. We're going to see Luis Neri 34-1 get in with Froilan Saludar, who's 33-6 with a draw. It's over 10 rounds there at bantamweight. Luis Neri, I think most people expected him to get the stoppage. I think Saludar's been stopped 3 times in his 6 losses. Can't remember who to now off the top of my mind, but I know he went the distance, I think, in a loss to, I want to say, Andrew Maloney, in one of the most recent fights that I've seen of his. But anyway, I'm quite impressed with the way that Luis Neri has bounced back since getting stopped to Brandon Figueroa. I am quite surprised. So yeah, I think he'll probably win, like I say, probably by stoppage. But I think if he stops this guy, it's a little bit of a statement. I mean, again, this guy also went the distance and lost a split decision to Daigo Higa, who can certainly bang. Yeah, moving out now to Nicaragua. One fight to mention over here. We're going to see friend of the show, Ernesto Mercado. I've talked about this guy many, many times before. We like to mention every time he's got a fight because he is one of the most exciting fighters right now. 10-0 with 10 KOs. I think he had 300 amateur fights, winning 290 of them. He's been a national champion about 10... about 20 times, I think, actually. He is boxing a guy called Zolisani Ndongeni, who some people will remember him. 31-2 is the record. His 2 losses, one came to Devin Haney, lost his O to Devin Haney unanimously over 10 rounds, and after that he got in with a guy called Prince Delomo, who was actually 11-10 with a draw, and he actually got knocked out by that guy in 6 rounds. It was another one of those kind of fighters that you go, wow, he got knocked out by a guy who was 11-10, and Devin Haney couldn't knock him out. And it was one of those fights, like I say, that people looked at and said, oh man, Devin Haney really can't punch and all the rest of it. But yeah, he gets in with a real banger here. He is coming off a win last time out. He actually stopped Apinung Kongsong, who some people will remember when he travelled to the UK, I think during COVID, and got stopped in a round by Josh Taylor, which was a punch that no one really actually saw. Even when you looked at the replay, you were like, what punch actually knocked him out? But anyway, that's going in a different direction. It's going to be good to see Ernesto Mercado out once again. Moving to the ballroom at the Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City, New Jersey, USA. This one's going to be live on Showtime. Let's start with the undercard. I think there's 3 good fights on this card, to be totally honest with you. I'm going to start with this one here. Edwin De Los Santos. He's 15-1 with 14 KOs. His loss as well was a split decision over 8 rounds to William Foster III. He gets in with Joseph Adorno, who's 17-2 with 2 draws, 14 KOs. Again, both men can bang. I remember watching Adorno's fight last time as well. Again, he got in with a real big banger, which was Elvis Rodriguez, and ended up losing a majority decision, though I think one of the cards that was close was quite far off, if I'm not mistaken. Adorno had been down twice, but he's a real tough guy. So again, will he get stopped here? I'm not entirely sure. I'm expecting it, to probably go a few rounds, but having said that, both guys can bang, so I wouldn't advise any kind of bet on that fight there. It's for the WBC Continental Americas lightweight title. Also on the card, we're going to see Yoelvis Gomez, a prospect, 6-0 with 5 KOs. Yoelvis Gomez, Cuban fighter based in Las Vegas. It's a step up once again. He gets in with Marcus Taylor, who's 14-1 with 2 draws. Marcus Taylor, quite a tough guy, like I say. The one loss that he does have as well was on points. So yeah, he's not really a puncher, and he's quite tough as well. His one loss come to Ladarius Miller back in 2015. Boxed a few decent guys, upset the odds a couple of times. Got a draw with Luke Santamaria as well, which actually is quite a decent little draw, because Santamaria upset a few odds as well himself. But no, he's been around the block, he's got a few good wins. Took the O away from Sanjabek Rakhmanov. Took the O away from Marlon Harrington. He's not a bad fighter, but yeah, like I say, it's another positive move for Yoelvis Gomez. He's always good to watch, and yeah, the way they're moving him very, very quick. It's a 10-rounder here as well at middleweight, so it's going to be good to see Yoelvis Gomez once again. He's another guy who, I'm not entirely sure how old he is, but he's another guy who I think looks way older than his listed age. Another Cuban, southpaw. And yeah, moving to the main event, I'm going to come to you, Eddie, here. Jaron Ennis, 30-0, gets in with Romain Villa, 26-1. It's over 12 rounds there at welterweight, obviously. A lot of people expecting Jaron Ennis to get the knockout, 30-0, 27 KOs. However, obviously last time out, we were watching him get in with Karen Chakadzian, and we didn't think much of Karen Chakadzian. We really thought he'd walk through him, and he looked actually really quite average last time, Jaron Ennis. I can't exactly remember what exactly I criticised him for now, because it's a fight that thankfully I've kind of forgotten a bit about. I remember watching it, and I had a hell of a lot to say in the podcast after that fight, but I can't remember exactly what I was criticising him for. But I remember, obviously, you'd done a little bit of work with Ennis in the build-up to that fight, and you were very confident he was going to stop this guy early, just like everyone else was, and obviously went the distance in quite a laboured performance. Gets in with a guy here, though, called Romain Villa, like I say, 26-1. The one loss came to Marcos Villasana back in 2019. But yeah, last time out was able to beat Rashidi Ellis. That was a good win there. I think he dropped Ellis as well, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure I watched that fight. It was on the Tank Davis and Hector Luis Garcia undercard. Oh yeah, that was the same night that Jaron Ennis boxed Chakadzian. So yeah, definitely watched it. But anyway, both guys can bang here. Like I say, Villa 26-1, 24 KOs, and Ennis 27 KOs from 30 wins. You wouldn't expect this one to go the distance, Eddie, but what's your thoughts on it? I don't know if you've seen much of Villa.
Yeah, I watched the fight actually with him and Rashidi Ellis the last time out. Rashidi Ellis is a really good, fast boxer, but not a ton of power, but surprising power. He can get respect. But Villa is one of those guys who is just going to stick around. You know what I mean? Sometimes wait you out. You know what I mean? Land shots to your body, wear you down slightly, and I think that's what ended up happening. And then what he does is he draws a lot of offense from it, because it looks like it's going to be easy. You'll be picking at him. You'll pick him apart. There's things that you'll be able to land. It looks like you're having a serious effect on him, and I guess to a degree you are, because you're winning and you're piling up points. But he's the kind of guy who's like a second half fighter. He's waiting to see that little bit of a fade in you. And then he's going to step up and try to take you out, or at least take the fight to you. A heavy puncher, you know what I mean? Big shots that you can see, but still, nevertheless, big shots. And when you get tired and your defense starts to suffer a little bit, because this is what happened with Rashidi Ellis, he kind of comes up at the end. That's how he ended up stealing that one at the end there. And I know we wanted to criticize Boots for the previous fight that he had with his kid Karen, but Karen actually was extremely good defensively and extremely good with his footwork. If you really remember the fight, this dude, he knew where to go. He knew his way around the boxing ring. He knew how to survive. And the thing, and this has happened with many fighters, and I've faced this on the way up as well, where guys know how to survive and you're not gonna look good against him. So it's just best to go out there and win. You know what I mean? He got into one of those situations where he was looking for the knockout. He was looking for the spectacular, and it's really difficult to look good in those situations because you're already fighting up a battle because everybody expects you to just, dominate this other professional who's actually pretty good and got a lot of respect, behind him from where he's from. Although we don't know about it, we haven't seen much of him. We kind of take for granted that he's going to destroy him, but he's still a professional. And as we've seen in the fight, he was extremely good defensively and extremely good with his footwork. He knew how to survive. There was never going to be a time where he was going to put himself completely in a position to where he was going to get stopped. He knew how to stay away from that, even with a kid as dynamic as Boots. So, and then you could see within the fight, Boots throwing shots and sometimes spinning around and, trying to do different things to make the fight more exciting because he wasn't getting a lot in return from the other guy. And as far as being hypercritical of him, I understand it, but there's not a single moment in the fight that he was second place. Not a single moment. So it's kind of hard to be really critical. I mean, of course you can do it anyway, and what we expect. But when a guy wins every round by a lot, it's hard for me to look at it and say, yeah, he didn't perform the way he wanted to. A lot of times it's the other guy. A lot of times it's the fighter he's fighting against. It makes it really difficult. So this is a different one altogether, though. Villa's going to be right there. He's going to take chances, and I think that's where Boots is going to end up catching him with something sharp, something nice, and he's going to end up stopping him. But taking nothing away from Villa, he's tough, and he's coming to win. He's proud. I'm pretty sure he's going to go out there and give it his all, and he's going to try to go out on the shield for sure.
We shall see. We shall see. Hopefully it's a good one, but yeah, I don't think this one will go the distance. Moving to the final card to mention, it goes down at the AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas, USA. On the undercard, we're going to see Marlon Esparza, 13-1. This one is for the WBA, WBC, and WBO female world flyweight titles. The WBO champion in the other corner is Gabriela Celeste Alanis, who's 14-0. She's actually a little bit of a puncher as well. I think she's got 6 KOs from her 14 wins, but she's coming off 3 back-to-back TKOs, which, again, doesn't happen too often in women's boxing, whereas Marlon Esparza, 13-1 with just 1 KO. Very, very light puncher she is. Marlon Esparza's the big favourite. She's expected to win this, and I will say, even though Alanis is a world champion, her, the opponents that she's boxed, they've had seriously poor records. Like, they've really wrapped her in cotton wool to get to 14-0. But yeah, hopefully it's a good one. I enjoy women's boxing when it's good. Also on the card, friend of the show, Joseph Jojo Diaz, 32-4 with a draw. It's a 10-rounder here at lightweight. He gets in with Jerry Perez, who's 14-2 with a draw. Looking at both guys' records on paper, you're going to say, it's an easy win here for Joseph Jojo Diaz. However, Joseph Jojo Diaz coming off 3 back-to-back defeats. Obviously, all of them have come on points. It's not like he's ever been stopped or nothing like that, but he was extremely poor last time out against Mercito Gesta. And that was the fight where I said, you know what? The Filipinos at the minute, they are, they're hungry, man. They're upsetting the odds. And yeah, I called it, and then he ended up doing that. And I was gutted, really, because I really like Jojo. Jojo came out a few weeks ago on social media and said he wanted to admit something to his fans. He wanted to apologize, but he was an alcoholic. He's been drinking, and he's had a real problem with alcohol. And I sent him a tweet, a direct message tweet, and we had a little bit of a back and forth. Just, I wanted to just kind of show my support to him and stuff like that. And he come back with some positive stuff, and it was a really positive exchange. And I've got about 3 or 4 different phone numbers for the guy. So, I got his latest phone number, and I hoped we could have had some kind of interview going before this fight, but hopefully we'll get him on after the fight. But, I like Jojo, and I think he's finally kind of realised that his career is going really badly downhill, and he needs to turn it round. And yeah, gets in with Jerry Perez, who I don't actually think he's going to walk straight through either. You know, Perez obviously lost his 2 fights to Frank Martin and Michel Rivera, 2 fighters who are not bad fighters at all. You know, lost to both of those guys, but he's beaten some good fighters along the way as well, and he certainly won't be coming for the payday or whatever you call it. He'll be coming to give it a good go, you know. I think he's had a couple of fights as well in the Team Combat League thing, that silly thing that I'm not a fan of, the one round tag team fight kind of stuff. So yeah, anyway, it is what it is. But yeah, I don't think Jojo's going to walk through him. I think that would be quite impressive if he did, but I'm expecting it to probably go the distance. But Jojo, I feel like he kind of needs to look good, and I just wish him all the best, man. And yeah, the main event, Virgil Ortiz Jr., this is honestly a real fantastic fight. Ortiz Jr. 19-0. It's for the WBA World Welterweight title. It's a 12-rounder against Imantas Stanionis, 14-0, 9 KOs. Obviously, like I say, Virgil Ortiz 19-0, all 19 by KO. It's a fantastic fight, it really is. It's a shame, though, that we're going to see Ortiz and Ennis both boxing on the very same weekend, but not against each other. And once again, it's another huge shame that Ennis is having his 31st fight, and it's against, this Romain Villa, who obviously he's an okay fighter, but I don't think I'd put him in the same league as Stanionis. A lot of people are actually thinking Stanionis could even pull an upset here. Stanionis has a fantastic jab. He's a very clever fighter. I think he adapts as well. And yeah, I think it's going to be a really good fight. Virgil Ortiz, obviously, he's had his issues outside of the ring with an illness. I've also heard that Stanionis as well had some kind of serious illness as well. Both guys have been quite unlucky with their outside of the ring illnesses. But yeah, both guys are back here. We're finally seeing it. It's finally on. Virgil Ortiz, man, hell of a fighter. I've talked him up so many times. I thought he was brilliant against Michael McKinson. That was almost a year ago, though. Now time really does fly. And Stanionis was able to beat Butayev as well, and that was over a year ago. So both guys are coming off of quite a long layoff as well. But yeah, brilliant fight. This is obviously fight of the weekend for sure. And a lot of people saying this has got the makings of fight of the year. We shall see. You can more than double your money for Virgil Ortiz to get another knockout. I think that's interesting. That's how much they rate Stanionis. So yeah, I think a lot of people kind of seeing it like Virgil Ortiz KO or Stanionis points. Eddie, do you want to weigh in on this? 2 really good fighters here. It's a great fight.
Yeah, this is one hell of a weekend of fights. Guys that I really rate. I'm going to be at the Boots fight down in Atlantic City most likely. So I'm going to watch that, see what happens there. I'm expecting great things there. But I definitely want to see this Stanionis Ortiz. This is an excellent fight. These two guys at this point in their careers, they're still ascending up, and to meet at this time is just great for us. I mean, it's obviously a championship fight, so there's things on the line, money and opportunity after, and belts. So yeah, excellent fight. I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I'm gonna watch both events this coming Saturday night.
Wow, well, there you go. You've heard it from Eddie there. He said he's going to watch both events. That must mean that he is interested in both events. He doesn't often say that. So, yeah, that's some dedication, Eddie. And I look forward to doing next week's show when we're talking about both of these supremely talented welterweights. Like I say, it is just a damn shame that they're both boxing on the same weekend but not against each other. But I do also think there should be belts on the line for that fight. Anyway, that brings the preview part of the show to a close. In part 1 we did the review part, then we welcomed our special guest, the reigning English Super-Welterweight champion, Mr. Sam Gilley. In part 2 we did the news. It was really brief. We just wrapped up the preview part. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 403 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge shout out to this week's special guest, the reigning English Super-Welterweight champion, Mr. Sam Gilley. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. Thanks once again for tuning in. There has been just one piece of news break whilst we've been recording the show. It's a fight for the WBO, IBF, WBA, and IBO heavyweight world titles. We're going to see Alexander Usyk defend those belts against, of course, his mandatory challenger, Mr. Daniel Dubois. The fight to take place in Poland on August 26th, which is a Saturday. I believe it's going to be on a network called TNT Sports on Box Office, so I don't know too many details about those guys, but we'll see as it gets closer. But that's about everything, though, from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.